Good morning to you. I'm hopeful that you are well as we approach that time of expectation and hope, the Advent season. I was thinking recently about when I was manager of a social work team, the last social work team that I managed before I retired. And I was blessed with working with some wonderful people. I loved being with them for their skills and their personalities, and it was a pleasure to be at work even in the most difficult situations we were faced with. We worked within the field of child protection, so you can imagine some of those difficult times we had. We were bound together in many ways by a shared humour, and we created a very supportive environment. And I still have contact with them, but I miss working with them. And one of the team, I'll call him Kevin, was a big man. He was tall and wide, a powerful man, but one of the gentlest souls I've ever met. He had a real sense of duty and commitment to his work and to his family and friends. And that was part of his strength and part of the attraction he had to others. He was like a rock. But that strength also became his weakness. He often struggled with the burdens that others placed on him, burdens which he willingly took on because that is who he was, that's who he wanted to be. He wanted to be there for everyone. And one morning I received a phone call from him, and he told me that he wasn't too good and he wasn't going to be in work and was actually going to go to see the doctor. And we spoke a little about what was wrong, and it was clear that he'd become overburdened, that he was trying to sort everything out for all sorts of people. And he felt a failure because of how he was feeling. He could no longer be that rock. And when I said to him, Kev, you may be a big man, but you don't always have to be that big man. And that opened up the floodgates of tears for him. And more recently I had a conversation with him, and he reminded me of that past conversation and how it was an important turning point for him, that he recognized that he didn't have to deal with everything on his own. He felt that he needed to learn that lesson, and now he tells other people who might feel similarly. He tells them that they don't have to tackle these things on their own, that they don't have to bear everything on their own shoulders. And we can all feel the need, can't we, to be pillars of strength in our lives, for ourselves, for the ones we love, and for so many others. And how many times do we feel overwhelmed and inadequate to the task? How often do we lie in bed at the end of the day knowing that that cycle will start all over again in a matter of hours, and all those anxieties raised about how we're going to tackle this and how we're going to tackle that? And then we don't get good sleep, do we? So that takes further our reserves away further. And how often do we turn our heads into our pillows and we hide our tears that we feel like letting go but can't quite let go, and yet we know we can't go on in that way, and yet we do. We go on day after day. Even when we're sick or tired, or sick and tired, we go on. We feel there's not much of a choice. We can fantasize about throwing a few clothes and some toiletries in a bag and heading off somewhere, destination unknown, just to get away from everything. But for most of us, it remains a fantasy because it's not a viable option. So what can we do? Is life to be relegated to an endless drudgery, just putting one foot in front of the other until we fall into the grave? It's a pretty depressing picture, really. But we can begin to think like that we're just here to take on everything. But God didn't place us on this earth, didn't give us the precious gift of life that we allow ourselves to be broken down, to trod up and down, to heads down like plough horses tilling a field. In Hebrews chapter 12, it says, "Lift up the hands that hang down and make straight paths for our feet." And I suppose every morning when we rise, we have to realize that this is a new day, a day that God has given us. That we should lift up our hands, resolve to do the best we can, but with His help. And not allow ourselves to become overwhelmed and with demands that we can't meet or expectations we can't live up to, certainly on our own. And I'm not just speaking to you. I'm speaking to myself as well. I'm not great at such things. I can be an Eeyore sometimes. Maybe you can be an Eeyore too. You know, I read a book quite a long time ago called Facing Your Giants. It's by an author called Max Lucado. Easy read. If you get a chance, have a read of it. It taught me a valuable lesson, that if we focus our attention only on the problems in our lives, the problems of others, or the bills, or the health concerns, or the separation from loved ones, today, COVID-19, well, that's all we'll see. It's a bit like, I think I've spoken before about consistently watching the news and thinking everything is bad, everything is awful, because that's what you're focusing on. But with God's help, we can focus on what's possible, what we can accomplish. When David was a shepherd boy, he didn't concentrate on the Philistine giant Goliath. He didn't concentrate on how tall he was, or how powerful his muscles were, or how intimidating his manner was. He concentrated on what was possible for him to accomplish. And when Goliath's vulnerability presented itself, David prayed for a steady hand and a sure eye, and he loaded his sling and he let fly, and Goliath fell, didn't he? So we need to focus on the possible. We need to do the best we can, and we need to place our faith and trust in God to help us to lift up our hands and make straight paths for our feet. And to remember always, always, we are loved. Such an important thing to remember. Amen. And I'll see you on, no, I keep getting that wrong. I'll speak to you next Monday. And in the meantime, you take care of yourselves, keep safe, and God bless. Bye-bye.